call to order the special meeting for the City Council of the City of Gahanna, Monday, August 11th, 2025. Mr. Van Meter, would you please call the roll?
Bowers.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
McGregor.
Here.
Padova.
Here.
Renner.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
And Schnetzer is absent.
Thank you, Mr. Van Meter. We have one item on this evening's agenda, a motion to go into executive session under authority of Section 5.40B of the Council Rules of Procedure to consider the purchase of property for public purposes if premature disclosure of the information would give an unfair competitive or bargaining advantage to a person whose personal private interest is adverse to the general public interest. Is there a motion to go into executive session for the purpose stated?
So moved.
I have a first by Mr. Renner,
Second.
a second by Mr. Weaver. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none. Mr. Van Meter, would you please call the roll?
Renner.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
McGregor.
Yes.
Padova.
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes. The motion carries. We will move into the law library with Mayor Jadwin, I think City Attorney Tamalarison.
Director Farrell and Senior Director Schultz.
Great, thank you. And we do not expect any action or legislation to come out of this evening's executive session. And as soon as we conclude, we'll adjourn and move straight into committee of the whole.
I know, it felt so warm and toasty in there, yeah.
It's cold in here.
We were toasty.
Staff.
Whenever you're ready. Yeah.
You guys good down there? Good. Everybody good? Okay. Mayor, you good?
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Today is Monday, August 11th, 2025. I've got 7:28, so we will go ahead and call this meeting of the Committee of the Whole to order. We will start first with items from the Department of Economic Development. Good evening, Director.
Here we are. Thanks for your patience.
I think we're all set.
This is 2 times in a row that I'm talking about abatements. I was hoping to come in front of you without having to just be, I don't want to get typecast as the abatement guy, right? So much more to economic development than just abatements. But today, we're talking about the Turk recommendations.
Mic is not on, sorry. We can hear you fine, but I don't know that YouTube can. There you go. Thank
Okay.
you.
So today, we're talking about Turk recommendations. This is for tax year 2023. I'll make this very brief. I have a couple of slides about just general Turk overview. You all received the minutes from the Turk meeting held last August. So basically what you're doing here is making your decision to continue, modify, or cancel the recommendations that Turk made last August. Make sense? We're operating a year behind because it's tax years, right? Not calendar years. Okay, so Tax Incentive Review Council, or Turk as we call it, is statutorily required by the revised code. It exists anywhere that there is a CRA, enterprise zone, or TIF area within the state. Their role is to make a recommendation to you all about the viability of abatement projects and make a recommendation to you to continue, modify, or cancel any property tax abatements that exist in the city. Turk also receives reports, although doesn't make recommendations on them, on pre-94 projects and any TIF area activity. So you can see the makeup of it. This is statutorily required. The county auditor is the chair. There are 2 commissioner representatives, 2 township representatives. So we have 2 townships that are impacted, so there's 4 there. School board, career center, and city representatives. And I listed their names as well. So this is representative of all of the taxing entities within the area. It's not just one or the other, or controlled more by one over the other. So behind the scenes, maybe what you don't see is Rachel does the lion's share of the work on this. So we, the city, are required to report on the status of the abatements every year by March 31st. We report to the Ohio Department of Development. So there's a lot of work that goes into that. We begin mailing the reporting forms at the end of the year prior, set a deadline on those to be returned, and if they don't meet the deadline, we make phone calls, we send emails, we'll drive out to the company and hand deliver them if we have to. Not returning those forms by March 31st can be considered when Turk is making its decision on recommendations or not. The CRA Housing Council meets as well. The last few years it's met at the end of the year. I want to reverse that for next year and have the CRA Housing Council meet before the Turk meeting. I'll show you why in a second. And then Rachel is busy preparing the reports that she will present to Turk, scheduled to meet a week from today, actually. So your role, like I mentioned, is to pass legislation. This is every year to continue, modify or cancel the abatement agreements. And you have used traditionally the Housing Council and Turk's recommendations as guidance on that. So I put that little flow chart down at the bottom to kind of show how all these things interact with each other. The company makes its report. The staff prepare and submit their reports to Department of Development. The Housing Council reviews the projects and makes a recommendation. It's unofficial, but we'd like to have them meet before Turk so that these projects have been vetted, questions have been answered, and we're bringing our best case and our best information to Turk in August. And if we can have kind of an unofficial recommendation from that body as well that we can take to Turk, that gives us a little more heft to our report. And then, of course, Turk meets, they make their recommendation to you all, which is done shortly after their meeting in the summer. So that's kind of how all these things interact together. So I'll skip to the end. That's very small. All abatements were found to be in compliance by Turk. They recommended the continuation of all of the post-94 abatements in effect. So I had Rachel compile some quick reporting data. I will certainly make sure you get a copy of this so you can see it and deliberate on it. But what we see here is job creation exceeded agreement amounts by 202 jobs. Retained jobs targets were met. That was 710 jobs were committed to be retained. 710 were retained. The retained payroll exceeded the committed amount by $9.7 million. The new payroll generated exceeded the agreement committed amounts by $15.7 million, which all tallied up equals income tax collections exceeded agreement amounts by a projected about $640,000. So the existing agreements are all doing well. Some of them are exceeding the committed amounts. Turk recommended that they all be continued exactly as they are in place. Thank you. Questions?
All right, thank you, Director. Any questions or discussion from my colleagues? Mrs. McGregor.
What's the difference between, what is the retained payroll and the new payroll? What's the difference?
So, yes, good question. So companies commit to retaining jobs. So for example, if they are outgrowing their space and they need to expand, right? Then they can agree to expand and retain the number of jobs on site,
Okay.
or they could create more. So it's just a matter of what fits best for the company for the project.
Thank you, Mrs. McGregor. Ms. Bowers?
Thank you, Director. Could you just explain, you had mentioned that you wanted to reverse the order of how these reports are brought forward to council in terms of timing. Could you go over that one more time for me?
Previously, the Housing Council Board has met in October or November after the Turk Board. That's kind of useless because the Housing Council Board doesn't really have any binding authority. They basically just review the projects and review the projects. It's more of the reports just get filed and accepted by them more than anything. So if we move them before Turk, then one, that's kind of an opportunity to practice our pitch to Turk. It allows for the Housing Council to ask questions and vet the information, and then in their accepting of the reports, then we can ask kind of for an unofficial recommendation that then we can then take to Turk to say, hey, our Housing Council, outside of just the city staff, we've had other people look at it, and they also agree that these should be continued.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Padova?
Thank you for the presentation tonight. I think that this is good information, especially with the continued discussion of abatements around the city. You said that Rachel will be going next week, and then will that be for 2024?
Correct. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
so, okay. I just wanted to make sure
Yep.
that I was following the years and how this timeline kind of works. Thank you.
I try to put TY at the beginning of tax year so that we all know it's a year behind.
Thank you, Director. I did have one question broadly and one question specifically. So in reading through the minutes, there are several instances where the commission members asked for follow-up information. We don't have additional minutes from when that follow-up is given. What is that process like from your team's end? That's a more broad question. And then specifically, I think it was called, the business was Premier
Yeah, Premier.
Holdings, and there was a question as to whether or not, since those are home health care aids primarily, whether those taxes are actually remitted to the city of Gahanna or whether those taxes are remitted to where they are performing their work. And if you had any additional clarification on that.
I do, sir. And let me answer the second one first.
Sure.
So we did query the company and learned that 90% of those jobs are employed here in the city of Gahanna. So 90% of that is retained by
And is
the
that,
city.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to step on your toes, but is that what was anticipated in our agreement then, that that 90% satisfies what we were anticipating then?
So I'm looking at I believe that information is on this chart. So Premier Holding, 165 existing, 165 reported, 12 committed to new jobs, 55 created. So I haven't done the math that well, but I believe that would fall within that 90% range.
Yep.
And then the answer to your first question is, so then once we get that information, since Turk didn't make their recommendation conditional on that information, then we just kind of hold on to it, and then it gets reported at the next Turk meeting. So Rachel will be delivering that information to Turk next Monday.
Okay. All right. I think that's all I had. Any other questions or discussion on this item? Seeing none, we'll put this on for first on the 18th, and then is consent agenda on the 2nd appropriate with folks? All right. Thank you very much, Director.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, next up, we have a presentation from Council Office's own intern, Mr. Nathan Graves. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, council members, City Attorney Tim Larison, and Mayor Jadwin. As you guys may know, I was the local government internship intern placed here at the City of Gahanna through MORPC this summer. I had the great opportunity to work with Jeremy, Jess, and Sophia this summer, and I wanted to take a few moments to kind of share the experiences and opportunities I had, and maybe give you guys some insight into our CRC, which I think is really cool. So kind of starting out, I want to talk about kind of the two major things I did over the summer. The one that took up the lion's share of my time was definitely preparing us for and kind of doing a nice comprehensive overview of our Charter Review Commission. For people at home that might not know, it's kind of like our city's constitution. That's how I like to think of it. Every 5 years, we review it. And so kind of my job was to get us kind of ready and get a nice framework going for 2026. That's when our next one will be. Very excited to see what they do with that. So kind of the first part of that was getting kind of assessed of what we have done in the past. I got to analyze and archive all our records. I feel like no good intern presentation is complete without like a file number. So mine was 959 files that I got to put in and digitize, which is really cool. And then kind of from there, I got to create kind of like a comprehensive operational framework that can help us go into the 2026 CRC and hopefully hit the ground running. And then as a fun supplemental project that I got to work on was a professional development opportunity document list for all of you guys. That was really cool. I kind of got to see what's out there and what you guys get to do, but hopefully I found some things that I might be able to do in the future, which is really cool. You can see in the picture I have all of my documents laid out. I got to go through some old newspaper clippings that were really cool. Really got to dive deep on those professional development opportunities, so that was really fun. And then I kind of want to talk about some of my core deliverables. So as I said, I got to digitize and create a file organization system. Kind of all the files were just kind of in there, and there was no rhyme or reason to what got placed where, so I got to really go through that. And then the charter amendment list of all the charter amendments that we've ever done to our charter, I got to update that. There are actually a couple inconsistencies that I had. It was a fun mystery to solve. And then I did some fun analysis. You can see up there. I thought these were interesting. The pass-fail rate of amendments overall. Recently, in the last couple of decades, that number actually went up quite a bit, which I thought was interesting. And then I did a fun little breakdown of who initiated the charter amendments that we had. That was also really cool. And then, I don't know, for people that have been Gahanna for a while, I got to go through some newspaper clippings. I thought it was really cool to see the Gahanna video. This was from a 1991 paper in I think the Rocky Fork Enterprise for the VHS release of Silence of the Lambs. I didn't know VHSs were so expensive. That's $100. I thought that was crazy, but I guess that's how it was. Some other cool things I got to do, I got to work with the city attorney, and I got to make a formal rules of procedure document, the first one that we had to our knowledge in our records, which I thought was really cool. And then I also created a procedural guide for both the city attorney and the clerk of council going forward to kind of help facilitate that. And then other things that I thought were really helpful, I created like an onboarding packet, a couple timetables, some templates, and a resource folder for hopefully the upcoming CRC to really be able to absorb all that and be able to really get into it right when they get there, kind of increase efficiency, hopefully. And then other things I just want to briefly talk about were some of the cool experiences that I got. So through all this work, I feel like I got a really deep understanding of municipal and legislative processes. It was really interesting coming from the city of Columbus to see the difference of how Gahanna does it. That was a really cool thing to experience. One of the highlights was definitely getting to see some city planning processes. Sitting in on those internal meetings was really cool. Seeing how things are made behind the scenes, that was really awesome to see. I became very familiar with public record law, all that good stuff. Maybe it sounds boring, but I thought it was cool. And then, of course, I got a lot of great professional connections, both through the city of Gahanna, but also MORPC, and I was really grateful for that. And then just the last couple things, I just wanted to highlight some of my really cool experiences. I was very mindful to take pictures for this internship, which I was happy with. I got to see our new building, got to sit on some really cool meetings. MORPC Transformation Innovation Forum was really awesome, and us interns got to connect, which I thought was really fun. Finally, I just wanted to give a big thank you to city staff. Everyone here is so welcoming and inviting, and I always appreciate that. I want to give a big shout out to Jeremy, Sophia, and Jess for just being really, really great public servants. They set a good example to aspire to, and that was really nice to see. I also want to thank MORPC for all their support that they put into the interns that they have there. It's a really amazing program, and I cannot recommend it enough. And of course, thank you to all of you for being such great public servants as well. Does anybody have any questions or anything?
All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to be selfish and take first crack here and just say thank you very much for your service to the city and for spending your time with us. We're so grateful to have you and for all of your efforts. I know Clerk Van Meter has sung your praises, so just thank you very much. I think my question for you is, what's next for you?
Yeah, so I'm going into the second year of my Master of Public Administration program. I'm really excited. I get to spend the second year interning in DC. So in a week and a half, I'll be moving out to DC for the first time, which is a big step, but I'm really excited for that. I'm going to be working with the American Maritime Congress, their fellowship program for the next year. So that's going to be really amazing and a really good experience. So next step is packing up all my stuff. That's on my mind at the moment.
Well, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions from my colleagues? Mrs. Bowers?
Good luck in DC.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just a couple brief comments, if you'll indulge me. So it was just great to have you, Nathan. You know, from everything that you've done for the city, whether it's been in your role as a camp counselor with Parks and Rec and a seasonal role, or this, you've just been an incredible asset. And I know that you are going to be an asset wherever you go, and I certainly hope that we see you back here in Gahanna.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
And I would just echo that as well. Thank you so much for all that you did and all you contributed. And yeah, it's just good to see a kid from Gahanna doing some awesome things. So again, thank you. We appreciate it and wish you all the best. You've got your community behind you, rooting you on.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Thank you. I was waiting to see if any other council members. Ms. Padova, were you? Nathan, congratulations, and thank you for a wonderful summer. I know that you worked directly, obviously, with the council office, but we had a lot of engagement with you as well. We had 7 interns overall, and last week, you got off lucky. We didn't make you do an intern. We did not make him do his presentation for the rest of us because he was going to be doing this one, but all of the interns did a presentation for us. So I think you were a part of an exceptional class. So thank you for all of your work. It was nice to have you back here in this role. You're not a stranger to Gahanna, and please keep in touch and let us know how you're doing, and look forward to hearing your stories from DC.
Thank you all so much.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Thank you. I'll just add really quickly, the mayor and I serve as MORPC Commission members, and it's been really fun seeing all the different opportunities where the interns may go for their placements, but then what their next chapters are. So all the best for the future in DC and beyond, so thank you. Next up, we have items from the Senior Director of Administrative Services. Good evening, Director.
Good evening. Is the Gahanna first?
That's what I have.
Okay, perfect. Great. So I wanted to give a brief update for our Gahanna because we're getting ready to launch into our last and final engagement. So briefly today, I'll discuss the process timeline, round 3 engagement, and then go over the adoption schedule as well. So this is the timeline we've used from the beginning. So right now, we're at round 3 engagement of August 2025. And then moving on from there, we'll talk about the adoption at the end. So round 3 engagement, this is everyone's chance, from the citizens to city council, to the city attorney, to the mayor, to the steering committee, to directors, staff, for everybody to review the plan content. So what will be at the round 3 engagement will be the final, not the final, but the latest draft of the strategic plan. So this round will focus on, here's the information we heard in round 1 and 2, and here are the initiatives going into that plan to test them back to make sure those are accurate with what the consultants heard. Some of the outreach that we've done this round is we did do postcards mailing out to all residents, inviting them to participate in the sweet celebration on August 26th, but also to take advantage of the survey that'll be online as well. So on the slide, you can see some other activities, the Uniquely Gahanna ad, lots of social media that's been out there, community gateway signs, posters, flyers, the steering committee, and I know some of you have helped us get the word out as well. And special thanks to Jeremy, he helped us get the word out to all our boards and commissions as well. If you know of anywhere that you would like posts, flyers to be up, if you just let us know, we'll get those over to you to hang up as well. So the engagement opportunities for round 3, we're doing an in-person engagement, the sweet celebration on August 26th at Creekside from 4 to 7. There will be free sweet treats for participants, for those who participate and fill out their little passport through the boards, and then they'll get to engage with one of our local businesses at Creekside for a sweet treat. The Our Gahanna Roadshow, it starts August 27th through September 20th at various locations throughout the community. So if you visit our website, you can get the dates and locations. Those are from the schools to the libraries, the senior center, to the Y, different places around town. And then, of course, you also can participate online from August 26th to September 20th. In addition to, before I get to the adoption schedule, so we will be sending council a survey, a separate survey. You'll have from August 26th to September 7th to participate that. And then one of the consultants from Planning Next will be getting a hold of Jeremy as well, if you'd like to schedule a call with them to review the draft recommendations as well. The steering committee members, Ms. Bowers, Mr. Schnetzer, and Mayor Jadwin participated during our last steering committee meeting, so this is the next phase of that. So you'll all be able to see the draft plan through that survey. The adoption schedule for now is September 20th. The engagement ends. The consultants will incorporate that feedback into the final draft documents in September and October. And then our plan right now is to introduce it at Committee of the Whole on the 13th for first reading on the 20th, if there needs to come back for discussion on the 27th, and then the second reading and vote would be on November 3rd. That is the brief update I have. Does anybody have any questions?
All right, thank you, Director. Any discussion?
I do have a couple of questions. Thank you, Director. I know that this is intended to be very public-facing, and I get that, and I appreciate that, and I think it's important. A couple of questions that are maybe more like a little bit more sort of in the weeds or whatnot. At one of the last at one of the last steering committees, there was and this is a very positive thing, but there was a lot of work being done by staff to identify kind of specific tasks and like a work through. Could you explain more of that, what that process was, how city staff were incorporated into that steering committee meeting, and how we should expect that to show up in the final recommendations?
Sure. So at the last steering committee meeting, all the city directors joined. There were 5 groups that directors were dispersed to based on kind of what their specialty is within the city. So they work with steering committee members to review draft recommendations that came from the public engagement with the steering committee members. Some of it was to flesh out, like, what do we think this actually meant, or here's the data to look at that. So that information went back to Planning Next. And so then they edited the draft recommendations from there. So what you will see at the round 3 engagement are the draft recommendations that have been derived from the engagement that occurred during rounds 1 and 2 with the steering committee review, with the city director's review. In addition to some of the round 3 engagement I just talked about, directors will see the recommendations again as well. And then Kelsey and Rachel, who serve on the project team with me, they're hosting one for city staff here in this building, and then out at the Parks and Service Garage as well. They'll be engaging with a wide variety of our staff as well, so they can see the recommendations. So after round 3, what happens is Planning Next takes all of the feedback that they get, they aggregate it like they have before, and then they make adjustments to any of the plan recommendations. So what you'll see are draft recommendations, so that will be the time when you'll want to give your feedback in that survey or with the call if things are missing, things are not what you think they were going to be, or something doesn't make sense, right? They'll be fine-tuning all that language, and that's the final document that will be given to you on the 13th of October.
And would you be able to give us a little bit of a preview of what we should expect to see in the plan document? Because I thought that I understood that maybe there would be specific criteria so that we could gauge, and that internally staff could gauge progress towards achieving the stated goals. Are you able to share more about that tonight?
I haven't, though, that part of the plan, so the plan, how it's written is kind of in 2 phases. Right now, the phase that they're in is writing the recommendations, like, I'm not even trying to think, like, you should do X additional plan, or incorporating one of the objectives is to incorporate the strategic plan in our onboarding process, for example, so it's used citywide. So once round 3 engagement starts, then what Planning Next will do is they will actually write what I would consider to be the plan document, the introduction, how to use the plan, how to incorporate the plan, how do other plans that the city have cross-reference into the strategic plan, right? The strategic plan is the framework plan, and then all of our other plans fall underneath there, but how do they work together? Those kind of that kind of information will come forward to you all on October 13th. That similar to the CIP, right? We have the CIP project list, right? But the whole document explains how to use those different priority levels and lists. It'll be similar to here. It will explain how you use the whole document in conjunction with the CIP, with the Parks Master Plan, with the Comprehensive Transportation and Mobility Plan. So all of that will come together for October 13th.
And like the CIP, will the strategic plan give direction on prioritization, or is it, I'll leave it, I guess, as that is the question. Will it give direction as to prioritization of various areas or recommendations?
I'll have to check on that specifically, because there's an implementation piece that comes with it as well. That's for staff to use, is how do you implement this plan? That's included in the overall plan documents as well.
Okay, so this isn't just lofty visions. This is actually a tool that we want to use to direct action.
That is correct. So then in not this budget process, but the next budget process next year for 27, every item we have would tie back to one of our strategic priorities and or objectives in that plan.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of a pivot, but I did want to follow up on the economic development strategy plan.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell us kind of where we are in that process?
So it's in the same process as this. So those final recommendations from that piece of the economic development strategy that's in the strategic plan, those will be going to the public as well. And so Director Gotke, is he still here? There he is. Since he's been here, he's taken most of that over, and so he's working with us in Planning Next to get the economic development strategy fine-tuned with input. They have an economic development advisor as part of the Planning Next team that helps as well, and then I know Jeff has got some other resources as well that they've been using for that. We'll be checking in with the CIC, but that information you'll also see that at the public engagement.
Is it ultimately going to be fully integrated into the strategic plan, or will there be like a sub-document?
It'll be its own chapter, so it'll be like a pull-out chapter. We're also working on we talked about Creekside a lot, and Creekside kind of translates into all the different categories of the strategic plan, so we're also working on a pull-out for that as well, so you don't have to like tab your strategic plan in 10 different places. There'll be a pull-out for Creekside as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowers. Any other, I see Ms. Jones?
Yeah, so for the Sweet Treat engagement, my understanding is that it's essentially residents reviewing the draft and responding to that, not necessarily new ideas?
That's correct, but if somebody does have a new idea, we'll obviously take that as well. So there'll be engagement boards like previous rounds.
Okay.
Planning Next is still working on the final design of those, but it'll be more than just standing there and reading like a very long list of tasks per se or objectives. It'll be in a way that is engaging, and there'll be anywhere from 6 to 12 different engagement stations.
Okay, and so then, I guess how is that duplicated through a survey? The survey?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a similar, if you took an online survey for any of the other engagement rounds, specifically engagement this second round, it was very similar. Essentially,
Okay.
the questions that were on the board were just like put on the survey. So if you come to the sweet treat celebration, you would not need to do the survey. You would just do one in person or the survey.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this item? All right, seeing none, thank you very much, Director, appreciate it. Next item, please.
The next item I have this evening is, you can tell by the title, it is a 2026 staffing request. So there's a couple reasons I'm bringing this to you early, and I'll get to those. But we're asking to advance a position ahead of the 2026 budget, the network analyst position. So this position falls in the Department of IT. You can see that it would fall under the network administrator in that kind of teal box. The systems analyst was hired earlier this summer, and she's been here and is doing great. So this would be the network analyst under the network administrator, and it is found in the staffing study. We did talk about it a little bit at last year's budget for staffing as well. So the reason I'm here today to request an advance of this position is because we have a lot of different projects going on right now, and then as well as a new House bill that was adopted and goes into effect in September. So a couple things. This requires no change to the salary ordinance, and there is no request for supplemental, as there's savings in the IT salary and benefit line from the systems analyst and some other vacancies we had earlier in the year. So I'm here today to give an update, answer questions, and hopefully get some head nods that it's okay to essentially advance hire. The reason for the advance hire is obviously this person's in charge of our network and security, so there's a comprehensive background check that is done for this individual that takes anywhere from 30 to 60 days that the Division of Police conducts for us. And so if we were to wait for the budget to pass to post this in January, we would be looking at a hire in April or May. Instead of, if we do it now, we can hopefully have somebody in by the end of the year. So the director of IT, Renee Carter, and our current network administrator, Brandon McCorkle, put together strategic priorities for the city's network. In addition to these strategic priorities, House Bill 96 takes effect in September with an implementation date of 1/1/2026. That establishes a cybersecurity program with 6 elements. They are to assess critical systems and risks, understand breach impacts, detect threats early, define incident response procedures, plan for recovery, and train all staff. And it is required to have a plan in place so that if you were to get audited, you would have to produce the plan. So good news for us, we do many of these things. Of course, they can always be enhanced. So the next slide has what the proposed network analyst role would do. And so you can see that these 5 boxes correspond pretty directly to the 6 elements for the new cybersecurity program. So this position will help strengthen our security by assisting with annual penetration tests, threat monitoring, and role-based access controls. In addition, they'll be able to look at real-time alerts from our system baselines, and support structured escalation protocols should there be an issue with security. They'll also assist with lifecycle planning, network redundancy, and proactive upgrades. For under the continuity and SOPs and staffing depth, they'll cross-train with the systems folks and the network administrator, work on SOP documentation, and then right now we have one individual who is in charge of our network, so it will assist with it will reduce the dependency we have on that one FTE for our network as well. They'll also assist with asset tracking, disaster recovery drills, and then alignment with CGIS requirements for our police information as well. So if we were to advance this position, like I said before, it will allow us to post it here this month in August. It takes us about 30 days from posting, 10 days for posting, then application review. Within the next 30 days, we suspect we can conduct interviews, and hopefully within 45, we have a selected candidate that will allow that candidate then to move to that background that can take 30 to 60 days. So with advanced hiring, we would be looking at hiring somebody hopefully at the end of November, beginning of December. And that way they're here for 1/1/26 for the implementation of that program, and then to help us continue to get ready to move into our new facility, as well as stand up all the networks that are required for that. So this year, next year, this new position, the IT team would onboard the new network analysts, deploy monitoring dashboards, begin infrastructure documentation SOP rollout. By the end of 26 into 27, we'd be looking at expanding analytics, automating scanning, and then cross-training staff to support redundancy for our critical needs of the city. So again, this requires no change to the salary ordinance and no supplemental, as there's savings in the IT salary and benefit lines. So in summary, the addition of a network analyst is essential to distribute operational load, reduce response times, and maintain to maintain city operations in the event of an absence, turnover, or increased demand. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I have a lot of other information from Director Carter as well. But similar to last year, the staffing priorities will come in a priority 1 or 2. This would be in a priority 1. If you said you can only have 1 position, this is likely the one we would fund next year. We're still flushing through the 2026 staffing request, but this is a vital role to maintain our security and infrastructure here. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you, Director, very much. Any discussion? All right, Mrs. Bowers.
Yeah, thank you. In terms of staffing availability, are you optimistic that we'll be able to fill the role in the timeline identified?
Yeah, we've used some different strategies with recruiting. When we got the systems analyst, they did have a good pool of candidates to select for those and did interview more people than typical for that. And then we did, when we did the staffing study and the consultant recommended adding this position, they did a market research at that time. So where it was placed in the salary ordinance is competitive with this line of work in the government as well.
And I apologize, you might have already said this, but what classification, what tier is this projected at? You can follow up by email if you don't have it handy.
Yes, unless Corey, nope, okay. Yeah, I can follow up. It's in the ordinance as IT Analyst 2, I believe. I will follow up because I think it's a C-17, but I'll send it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? All right, seeing none, thank you very much, Director. Appreciate it.
Sorry, Chair. Is everybody, so I'll be back in October for the budget workshop, and this will be on the request. We would just like to advance hiring. I see most people shaking their head, yes, is that, yeah?
For my druthers, please proceed.
Great, thank you.
I mean, as you said, this is a mandate from the state, an unfunded mandate again, but a mandate from the state, so we have to be responsive to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, we have items from the Department of Parks and Recreation. Good evening, Director.
Good evening, thank you. I want to take an opportunity to give an overview of the Price Road project from really start to where we are to date, for those who may not be up to date with what the project is and the intention of it. The Price Road, we also refer to it as the Exploration Center. The location of it is off of James Road, south of the Gahanna swimming pool. The property was acquired in 2010 from the Parks and Recreation Department because of the adjacency to parkland, existing parkland. The property had a outbuilding, which is actually still used today for storage. And it also had, or still has, a residential property that is located within that acquisition. An evaluation was done in part because the 2006 Parks Master Plan had a strong identifier that the indoor recreation space was a deficiency within the system, and that was reaffirmed in the 2023 Parks Master Plan that was adopted. So an evaluation of that site was done to determine the feasibility of renovating that residential property into recreational space. The images to the right, which don't pay close attention to the aesthetics, the colors and the flooring tiles are a little different in final draft, but it does depict some opportunities of this space. The property is 5,500 square feet. The programmable space is more 2,700 square feet. There's 3 recreational spaces that are available. This is only showing 2 of the 3. One thing that you see on the top photo, there is an outdoor deck that is part of the design. And ultimately, the location of it is directly adjacent to the Big Walnut Trail, the Big Walnut Creek, and then again, over 50 acres of parkland. So the opportunities to really just advance and bring outdoors indoors is something that is really a great opportunity for this space. One thing to also note is that we just have great partners with agencies such as churches and schools, but those do still have limitations and do have funding that are associated with those opportunities. So this space will allow us to do programming for after-school programming, whether it's STEM, arts and crafts, any type of expansive or learning activities, as well as adult programming for health and wellness, or any other types of community-based programs. This space also allows for rentable space for community groups. You have Boy Scout, Girl Scout troops that are always looking for spaces. This presents a great opportunity for not only viable space, but also great partnerships to join our services with those groups. Also, again, for rentable, for private parties such as baby showers and birthday parties, which we often see at the clubhouse. The clubhouse does what it needs to do, but this will definitely present a more comfortable and a different location for those types of services. So again, the acquisition was in 2010. Everything's valuation was done in 2021, with the understanding that we did have a viable project. We did submit for a state capital grant, which was awarded in 2022 for $100,000 for the renovation of that project. The facility was bid in 2023. We only received one bid response, and it was over the engineer's estimate, so it was not a viable bid. So throughout the course of 2024, there was an evaluation and a rescoping of improvement of the design in order to prepare a better project for bid, which does incorporate the parking lot as well. So that leads us to today, where we received 5 viable bids for the project. This breakdown will help to give an overview of where the engineer's estimate total is, and that is part of the report as well. The project award, or I'm sorry, the bid contract did come under the engineer's estimate. The project does have funds that were appropriated in previous CIP cycles. Along with the project total as well as contingencies for the project, there is a gap of $335,547, which we are requesting a supplemental for. So with that, the administration is respectfully requesting an ordinance to enter into a contract with HGC Construction for the renovation of the Price Road project, as well as including a supplemental appropriation to completely fulfill the construction of the project. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Director. Any discussion from my colleagues? Mr. Renner.
Yes, Director, thank you very much. This is really exciting. For almost as long as I've been on council, I've been waiting and waiting and waiting for the Price Road and this renovation. Director, I have 2 questions. Well, one is just a comment. That home is very unique. I know that you have a picture on it and it's sort of boarded up and all that kind of stuff. But it is, if everybody would actually go to it before all the construction activity happens around it and just take a walk around the home, it's a very unique home, split level type of thing. And its character and charm is, I'd like to know what the history of that home is, in some way to actually embed that into, pointing forward. We also, Morpsey, before Rapid 5 actually morphed itself, but there was a lot of energy, if you remember, that the Rapid 5 and maybe this was actually one of those points, or maybe 2 of those points in the Rapid 5 map. I tried to find it online, but it's gone. But I was wondering if you could actually speak to any of that and the synergy with the Rapid 5?
Absolutely, and you're exactly right. This corridor was identified as, we'll call it Gahanna's corridor in response to the Rapid 5 project. This location, again, you have the confluence. You also have the Big Walnut Trail. So you have a collection of natural resources all in one location that are walkable. And it's also, again, you're adjacent to high trafficked areas. So you have the ability to separate yourself from we'll call it the hustle and bustle, for lack of better words, into a very natural space, which we all have learned very intimately that's truly important for the overall, and not just physical wellness, but mental wellness of us as humans. But the Rapid 5 project did celebrate this corridor because of those natural elements. So this particular project, while it wasn't the design component that was a deliverable of Rapid 5, the location of it was purposeful in response to those elements. So absolutely.
Also, I have seen you in the past, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but you talked in terms of programming from an environmental science and ecological point of view. And I thought, wow, this is right in the riparian area of the Big Walnut. Could you elaborate any today about what you're envisioning?
Yeah, so we've actually incorporated some projects with the mad scientists. Those are actually just recently at Gahanna Woods, where you were able to get your literal hands on salamanders and understand the ecosystem of why Gahanna Woods is an appropriate location and why salamanders are affluent there. So those types of programs and understanding that the ecosystems that are adjacent to that property and the types of critters that you'll see or the types of plants that you see are all purposeful and have a general reason for being there. So that absolutely an opportunity to continue to just expand the knowledge of again bringing the outdoor inside.
Yeah, very well said, actually, the reason why we have that, or why Mother Nature is constructed in a certain way.
Right.
So thank you very much. I'm very, very excited about this, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Renner. Any other questions or discussion? All right, I will just add my excitement to see this moving forward as well. I think this really presents a great opportunity for our community, so thank you very much. I do see the request is to waive second reading, so we will put this on the regular agenda for, Mrs. Bowers, before we.
I thought I read in, maybe I missed. Did I read in the report that we did not need emergency?
That is correct. With construction, emergency is not required, but we are requesting waiver.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you.
So with waiver requested, we will put this on the regular agenda on the 18th. And I know I sound like a broken record. I'll note my general discomfort with waiver, but I think it's appropriate here. So
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Director. Next up, we have items from the Senior Director of Operations. I'm assuming we'll start first with the Tech Center Drive update.
Good evening, folks. So I missed you guys in July, but being that we took committee off, we haven't given a report. So this is actually I guess what would be a June and July status update on our 825 Tech Center Drive project. Obviously, as you guys know, we had Ms. Bowers and Mr. Weaver over, I think, 2 weeks ago at this point, right? So as I always offer, if anybody would like to come and take a tour, by all means, just drop me an email and we can figure out a time to come over. But things on the construction site are happening fast and furious. I think anybody who's driven by, how many of you guys have driven by recently? You guys can see a much different 825 Tech Center Drive this month, last month, than you have in months past. Obviously, all of the construction fence is taken down, and they've flipped the back parking lot to the front parking lot. So we have a coarse asphalt, coarse paving off the front of the building, which is now where all the construction workers are parking, so they can start work on the back parking lot there. You guys can get a really, really good sense on how that front parking lot functions and how circulation happens, so on and so forth. Not completely done in the front. We still have some areas off of the police department side that have yet to be paved, but they're working towards some of those things. We have had a couple of issues as far as it hasn't rained in about 10 days, we'll say, maybe not even. But the heavy rains did impact their ability to get the parking lot paved. But a lot of what's been going on from an exterior standpoint, so the front curbs and the police egress are obviously complete. You can see exactly what that would feel like, minus the exception of the security fence that would be built around the cruiser lot. The solar carport footers have been placed on both sides of the facility, so on the west side of the facility next to the AAP building, and then also on the east side of the building as well. They should start doing structures there in the next few weeks. The bioswale or stormwater facility is completed off of the front of the building. We've talked about the asphalt parking off the front, and then the rear lot site work has also begun. And then you can also begin to feel the pedestrian improvements that are being made, whether it's in the multi-use trail along the front of the property or some of the pedestrian movements as it relates to the site itself. Interior to the building, if we think the exterior of the building is coming and progressing along quickly, the interior is progressing just as fast as well. They've begun to do casework and bathroom finishes on the third floor primarily. At this point, we'll see some pictures here in a little bit, even to the point where carpet and LVT, luxury vinyl tile, is being placed. Again, mainly on the third floor, but remember, they're working the building from the top to the bottom. If you're up on the third floor, you're in a different environment than if you're on the first floor. The first floor is definitely a very, very active construction scene, a whole lot more dusty than the third floor. But again, they're working their way out of the building, as they like to say. From a technical standpoint, the building UPS, so the backup battery system, is in place. It's not hooked up entirely, right, but it's physically in the room in which it's going to go. So if the power was to go out, we have to survive, if you would, the blip between the power going out and the generator kicking on. And that's what the UPS is designed to do. It doesn't do the entire building, but it does some critical systems in the building so they don't have to reboot. It does the entire dispatch center, as an example, and a large portion of the police department, HVAC, and those types of things. And then by completion, we're 73% complete, and then we have had 34 weather days. I want to say we've had maybe 5 to 7 days over the last in June and July. And again, that is largely due to the rain. I forgot that my 2 slides here are the same, so I will keep moving here. Just some pictures. So one of the things I did in my last update was show you the 1-year photo. So the July 2025 photo in the upper left, and then the July 23rd, 2025 photo. You can see all of that asphalt that's in the course paving. We can see. Let me get my little highlighter here. We can see the multi-use trail being constructed here. Followed closely by the bioswale, and then you can really feel and see how the parking lot itself is going to ultimately circulate, both for police to ingress and egress out of the AEP lot, and then also how the general public will access the front lot, and then how staff and senior center members would ultimately access the back parking lot as well. Just a year ago, July 25th, so just a couple weeks ago, we were still in very active construction as it related to the basement, and you can see the tremendous strides that the project has made coming up out of the ground. Some of the interiors that you'll see, upper left-hand corner, this is the bathroom finishes. This is one of the centrally located bathrooms up on the third floor. Obviously, you can see the ceramic tile being nearly complete in this particular space, and it's really ready almost for bathroom fixtures like toilets and sinks and those types of things. The countertop isn't quite in yet. It's there in place, but it isn't actually affixed to the surface itself. This is the style of all of the bathrooms throughout the entire facility. So this is not just up on the third floor, but this is even how the public restroom would appear on the first floor as well. The middle picture here is some of the casework, and two elements on here. Well, I guess 3, from the ceiling to the casework to the carpet being laid. I believe this is in the finance department. These areas, this casework area, really takes the place of movable furniture in some instances with lateral files and those types of things. So this is a more economical and a better way to handle paper products and then storage and those types of things. You have casework like this, not necessarily to this degree, throughout each of the departments throughout the building. And then this is, I believe this happens to be the HR manager's office in this particular area. And then you can see the glass wall system. This right here is the actual doorway into the office. And then these 3 panels here are glass panels into the office itself. Those would be in office situations like that. Those are frosted for privacy, not completely frosted, right? There's a nice decorative pattern on that frost. But you wouldn't see Ben in there tapping away. You would just hear him through the door. And those systems are going in place in a variety of locations up on the 3rd floor. On the site here, nice little picture, a little memorial here to us visiting the building a couple weeks ago. Me doing my best impression of, in my best talk, if you would, pointing out, I believe, some of the elements over on the senior side. Another element here throughout the front. So if you guys were to visit and drive through the parking lot, you're going to see these mounds. You're going to probably wonder what some of those mounds are. Those are actually security features throughout the front of the building. If you remember, we've talked a lot about the passive security on the front side of the building, which then ultimately would prevent a car getting all the way to the structure itself. And then the picture on the far right-hand side here is just some pedestrian accessibility off the back side of the building. That runs the entire length of the back side of the building all the way from the far sally port all the way to the middle of the building on the I guess what is the south elevation of the building itself. So the July financials, we have invoiced 61% of the project. I did actually just receive, this is technically this slide is incorrect. This is the June financials. So as of June 31st, we've invoiced 31%. I did actually just receive the July pay application just today in my email. Did not have a chance to get it incorporated into the document here. Generally speaking, those run about $3 to $4 million per pay app, so we're probably closer to 65% for the month of July. And then from an allowance standpoint, remember that bottom slide here, the percentages are correct. This is not, we spent $1 million in allowance. We've spent 52% of the allowance budget and then 53% of the contingency budget. So we have approved to date $2.5 million in either allowance and or contingency, so about 53%. Again, we're at that 61% invoice. We're over the halfway point. So from an allowance and contingency standpoint, we're doing well. With that, that's the end of my remarks for the update. So I can pause and take questions here on the update itself.
Sounds good, Director. Thank you very much. Any questions or discussion on the update? All right. Seeing none, I'll just say thank you for the tour. I appreciate it. I appreciate the updates here in chambers, but it is quite another thing to see it in person and just to see, how quickly and the project is moving forward. So hats off to you and all city staff who are working on this and the team.
Yep.
So thank you.
It's a big effort on the entire staff's point. Many folks who aren't even in this particular room. So great to point out those folks that do work on the project. Next item.
Please, sir.
Next item is, it's actually an oversight on my part. So when we brought the full furniture, fixtures, and equipment budget to you folks, not budget, but furniture contract to you folks back in May, I should have also been presenting the 911 console furniture at the same time as well. So this is a tick of a cleanup item. So just by way of review, we have a total FF&E budget of $2.3 million. That's reflective in that top line there. If you guys were to review my comments from May when we did the furniture budget, you'll see very similar parts and pieces here. I did reorganize them just for this particular conversation. But we do actually have an equipment project 2502 for 911 dispatcher workstations. That was allocated during our CIP process for $160,000. And then we're looking to take $25,000 of the remaining FF&E budget in order to make the contract, sorry, I should have that up here too, the total contract for Winstead 911 dispatcher consoles, the contract for 911 dispatcher consoles whole at $185,000. We did RFP each of the 911 consoles as a bid alternate. So when we did the furniture bid originally with MSA, we did have the consoles in there. and which we kind of thought and we kind of knew. We really wanted to get a differential on what it would cost for King Furniture Business Systems to bring in the 911 consoles, or what would it cost us to do it separately. And when the 25% markup came back through that bid process, we decided that we would procure those on our own. So the administration is respectfully requesting the mayor to be authorized to sign a contract with Winstead Company LLC for the purchase and procurement of 911 dispatcher workstations, which total $185,000, and in part includes a $12,000 contingency. And with that, I can take questions.
All right, thank you, Director. I see Mrs. McGregor.
Can any of the equipment that's over on Johnstown Road be reused over here? I mean,
So-
'cause we haven't been over there that long, that,
Correct. So the consoles over there are of a smaller size than what's being built than these consoles here. You also have to take in mind, too, that we will be using 400 West Johnstown as a backup facility. So there's a certain amount of furniture that needs to remain over there as well. So this is I want to say that these consoles are 12 to 15 inches wider than the consoles that are over at 400. And at that point, too, I think we have 6 consoles over at 400 West Johnstown. And we would be looking to maintain 3 of them over there as a backup facility.
Any other questions or discussion on this item?
Yeah, just
Mrs.
very
Bowers.
quickly, thank you. Since we're entering into contract, I guess what would the threat be to a potential cost increase? Isn't the contract price stable, or is it not?
Not until the mayor signs it, is it stable?
Okay. So emergency is required in order for the contract to even be
Correct.
executed?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we can't sign, the mayor's not authorized to sign the contract until the waiver period has expired,
Okay, thank you.
or the referendum period, whatever,
30-day
yeah.
period, right.
And I'm assuming that's the same, a similar need to move for the waiver request
For the
as
waiver
well.
as well, yes, sir.
All right. Seeing no further discussion on this, as noted, waiver is requested as well as emergency, so we will have this on the regular agenda on the 18th. All right, thank you very much, Director. We will turn now to a Creekside update. Madam Mayor?
Sure, I'll give Director Schultz a brief respite.
Thank you. I'm going to
Catch
grab
your
my water
breath.
bottle. Thank
Catch
you,
your breath.
appreciate you.
So this project is an update from Director Schultz on the Creekside Flood Mitigation Project. It is one that we first began discussing publicly back in 2020, but it is a project that previously, unbeknownst to us, actually began many years before that. My first day in office, in fact, my first meeting as mayor in January of 2020, I was advised that questions had been raised with regard to the flood-proofing certificate for the Creekside Garage and other areas around that development. That conversation, after analysis and investigation and research, eventually led to the engagement of an outside engineering and environmental firm who conducted a thorough evaluation and investigation of the Creekside area over a several-month period. Their evaluation confirmed that we needed to do flood-proofing work in the garage, along the embankment that extends from the northern, Building A is to the north, Building B is in the middle, obviously, and Building C, where Nostalgia is to the south. So the embankment, there needs to be flood-proofing work done along the embankment extending from the northern portion of Building A all the way down to the southern portion of Building C, or that alleyway that separates Mr. Griffin's parking lot from Creekside. We've been working with FEMA, and we are currently operating under a directive from FEMA to perform the critical and necessary flood-proofing work that needs to be done. As we have been going through this process of understanding, okay, what does the flood-proofing work look like, we have recognized that Creekside itself is in need of an overall refresh. Its construction started 20 years ago, or no, it was 2005, 20 years ago. And as we have worked, again, to identify how we're going to address the mandatory floodproofing requirements, we recognize that this project also presents an opportunity for us to address some of those critical needs that exist down at Creekside. Last September, some of you may recall at the Mill Street Market, we shared a rendering or two to show what could be done with Creekside, really just as a first step to gauge the community's interest in Creekside and what kind of improvements we could make there. And I think we were all surprised at the overwhelmingly positive response we had. There was not one negative response that we received from folks who looked at that rendering. Many of them said, "Can you do that right now?" Which led us to say, okay, maybe we're on the right track. We should give it some further consideration. Since then, as you know, we've been working on our Gahanna, and the desire for the community to see changes at Creekside, to see that area truly become vibrant and healthy, has been reaffirmed from the community through that strategic planning engagement that we've had. Planning Next has been here several times and has talked about the fact that thank you, Director Schultz, for showing that. Creekside itself, the business vitality, the connectivity, accessibility, with park amenities, creek activation are all priorities that our community has identified. So with that, we have been not only identifying the flood mitigation work, but also some concepts of what could be done at Creekside. As we do the flood mitigation work, it extends opportunities for us to extend a little bit beyond that, given some of the things that we have to do. So at this point, if you've caught your breath, Director Schultz, I'm going to turn this over to you. And he will walk you through not only the proposed flood mitigation project, but preliminary design concepts that the team has been working on as well. Again, depicting what Creekside could become as we undertake the mandatory floodproofing requirements that have to be done.
No, good, thank you, Mayor. So I think, as I say, probably during my 825 presentations, or have said during my 825 presentations, I'm just the fortunate one that gets to sit at the desk and present these projects to you. Obviously, Director Comlank is in the audience, along with Director Farrell, Director Blackford, Mr. Guthrie at the parks, the mayor, a whole host of folks have really been working on this project, actually prior to me being in the position that I'm currently in at this time. So as the mayor indicated, this project is really, it's really 5 different projects, if you would, 4 depending on how you shake them. And what we've really charged the design team with, and the design team is Fishbeck Engineering and then Pod Design. I don't think John's in the room tonight, but John is a Gahanna resident working hard on this project. The project is really broken up into a variety of different parts and pieces. Just walking down the list here, and we're going to get into some very good renderings and then some good explanation of what each one of these things is. But we have flood proofing. The mayor did a great job at explaining just exactly what that flood proofing looks like. But then the trail improvements, and what are some of the opportunities that we do have, being that we do have to do a fair amount of work on the creek bank itself. But then, and that's why those two are bolded, because at a minimum, we see this project as the gray portion and the blue portion, and we're getting to that into more specifics. But then, as the mayor had indicated, Creekside really is in need of a refresh, right? I think we all visit there and we all can recognize the potential that the space has, but it's now 20 years old and there's issues and challenges that need to be addressed. I guess one of the greatest examples of that was during Herb Day. If you guys noticed during Herb Day, the steps that lead from Mill Street up into the upper plaza there, those were in need of repair. They weren't quite repaired yet, but then over the subsequent weeks, right, there was some construction that took place in order to repair the steps to bring them back into good working order. So we've really broken this up into a couple different parts and pieces. I've already noticed one error on my slide. The lower plaza, where it says lower plaza in green, that should say upper plaza. And then in red, where it says upper plaza, that should say lower plaza. So everybody's familiar with the two different areas there. Basically, the lower bowl is the lower plaza, and then the upper plaza is in is any of the storefronts and such, or patio spaces, and the primary area where we host events. And then obviously we also have the streetscape itself, right? The street is really the first place that people visit when they're visiting Creekside, right? And the street is in just as much need as the plaza spaces themselves. And only because there's an orange color on my little diagram there to the left, the tabletop, but that's a roadway improvement that we'll get into here in a couple minutes. This is here as a blow up of what we saw on the initial slide there. This does a better job of indicating exactly where each one of those areas are, and what makes up each one of those areas, right? We do have a good cost breakdown for the flood mitigation aspects of the project versus the lower plaza versus the upper plaza versus the streetscapes itself. Because for a long time now, for as long as I've been working on this particular project, we really have charged both Fishbeck and with Pod at making sure that as they're going through their design process, that they're really doing it responsibly, and that we do actually have the ability to pull this project apart and shape it how we need it shaped, as opposed to sometimes how the designer wants it designed. So as we move on here, I really would like a lot of the renderings here to speak for themselves. But basically here, we'll start with the overview. You have Mill Street here on the right. Let me grab my little marker again. Oop, wrong. We have Mill Street over here on the right, and then obviously we walk all the way over to the creek on the left. We have kept many of the features the same, but obviously I think the one thing that I'll point out immediately is the fact that this middle lower bowl area becomes much more functional with the reduction of the lagoon itself. Right, we did feel like, we host a lot of events where Mill Street needs to be closed. So how do we create a workable space inside of Creekside itself that limits our need and desire sometimes to actually close Mill Street and host events? So obviously that's the most striking change that we make to the lagoon itself. But then as you can see through the rendering here, there's also an opportunity for some amphitheater style seating. So that you have the ability to have a performance. You just have, but if somebody wants to sit there on a Tuesday afternoon for lunch on a beautiful day, they have the ability to do that as well. The pedestrian bridge over the lagoon stays intact. It does get refurbished, but it does stay intact 100%. And then as we get into this, you'll see some creek improvements as they happen on the opposite side of the bridge here. So moving on, right, this project is primarily a flood mitigation project. What does that mean, right? So obviously you guys all know that the garage basically sits under each one of the buildings that's there, almost the entire length of the facility itself. You guys have been down there when there's water infiltration largely through the ceiling, if you would. But then the structure itself is also prone to flooding when we have those major events, and Hoover is released and so on and so forth. So in order to achieve, the FEMA requirements and the FEMA flood, the flood certificate, there's a clay liner and sealing that needs to be done on the entire bank, which the mayor has described, which is primarily the entire length of buildings A, B, and C, and then obviously the central plaza itself. With that erosion control, creek bank erosion control would also be put in place, which then also keeps that water from eroding away at the creek bank and then causing other stability issues on the bank. But then it also creates a barrier for the garage itself to stop actually being flooded or impacted during larger flood events. One of the improvements, not improvements, but one of the parts and pieces here is that this whole entire area across the lagoon area, the lower lagoon, and then as as it wraps up into the lower bowl, that is also prone to flooding and is actually within the 100-year flood zone. So through the project, the flood mitigation project, a temporary flood wall system would be procured so that the parks team, when they know that those events are coming, because they are likely predictable, they could install this particular system and then protect the lower bowl and then the garage structure that's immediately below it. I'm going to flip back to this particular picture real quick. This whole entire area here, this is in the upper plaza. I realize that we're talking about flood mitigation, but one of the things is that this particular ramp is currently not meeting ADA standards, and it needs to be updated. So this is actually part of the core project, part of the flood mitigation project. There's also work that they need to do directly below that structure in order to flood-proof the garage. So they would take the opportunity to improve this particular area right in here. The pedestrian bridge gets reconstructed. One of the things that we've learned during this particular project, I think actually just last week, is that this middle column here is not a structural column. So we actually have recommended that it come out. This way you improve the views from the lower plaza ultimately over to the creek and the natural area that's just on the other side of these water jets here. The lower waterfall gets redesigned. The lower waterfall, the trail, and then the access to the creek itself ultimately gets redesigned. And then there's different lighting improvements and landscaping improvements that happen along the entire trail here. And I have many more renderings that we'll get to here in a second, or in a couple minutes here. But there's those softer areas, and even street furniture gets improved. So we create some spaces that don't currently exist today. Just moving on a little bit here, right? So trail improvements, the blue area on the main site plan or overview map. The trail improvements, this space in this particular area is rather disconnected. So we're at the backside of Building C. The alleyway, if you would, to Mill Street. Hopefully that clears up. The alleyway to Mill Street is right on the right-hand side of the screen where the red arrow is now. But the trail improvements improve the ADA access to the upper plaza. So we create a formal staircase from the lower trail area to the upper plaza, but then we also create this ADA accessible ramp, indoor bike ramp, indoor pedestrian ramp, however it is that you would like to say it, that takes you from the lower trail area to the upper plaza, really opening up that backside of the plaza itself to the lower trail area. Right now, in order for somebody to access right now for somebody, let's say they were in a wheelchair or they were having mobility issues and needed a handicap ramp, they would have to go to the far front of the property in order to access the upper plaza to return back to the live music that was going on in the backside of the property here. They can go into the buildings and they could take the elevator upstairs, but at this particular point, this redesign would open up the upper plaza to the lower trail system immediately. You'll also notice here that the other thing that it does is it gets rid of the cantilever. There are some issues with the cantilever as it exists today. So it either needs to be completely reconstructed and/or we can take the opportunity to really open up the upper plaza to the lower trail system by creating this retaining wall type system that has a lot more vegetation on it, a lot more landscaping on it, and really opens up those views and all of that access to the creek, which is obviously this mill race is the amenity immediately on the left-hand side of the screen. I will note that they haven't done a tree survey there yet, but the trees would have to be thinned in order to accommodate the clay cap and do that particular construction. So there would actually be some thinning of some trees. I don't believe it would be as heavily vegetated as with these mature trees as it would be. But they can install the clay cap. They can install the erosion control measures around some of the more mature trees. And our plan would be to maintain as many of those as possible. So just moving on a little bit here, the lower plaza, which is the red on the site plan. I do have two slides here that represent the lower plaza. So as you can see from the overhead shot, the first slide that I showed, and I've already talked about, but the lagoon gets significantly reduced in size, which really opens up the lower area to it's greater than a 5,000 square foot programmable area off of the front of the plaza. I've talked about the amphitheater style seating that happens on both sides of the formal staircase that takes you from Mill Street down into the lower bowl. This area has currently, as it's preliminarily designed, it hosts 2 different stages. So you have a stage here at the front of the lagoon, where performances can take place. And then there's a more formal stage here on the right-hand side, which is a little bit more central to the amphitheater and such. There are other renderings that show this particular space activated in a variety of ways. One of them is, as an example, it's a winter scene, and there's the Christmas tree, the big, large Christmas tree that currently goes on the upper plaza down in this particular vicinity here. There's another view that shows an orchestra, like the high school orchestra, sitting in circular seating here around the middle with the visitors or spectators watching there. So this whole area here gets activated in a variety of can be activated in a variety of different ways, just by shrinking the overall size of the lagoon. I think the other thing that's striking on this particular rendering is the amount of green space that's ultimately created in this particular area. Right now, I purposely didn't actually show it, right? But when you look at Creekside from the street view photo or something like that, it's fairly stark. Yes, there's the backdrop of what's across the creek or at the creek bank itself, so there's a lot of trees back there. But I think there's only 2 trees in the central plaza area right now that have probably survived over the last 20 years. I don't know what it was like when it was originally constructed, right? But there's large planting beds, there's large mature trees that get installed throughout the space here. And they really create an area that creates a certain amount of separation, but then it also creates a certain amount of vibrancy throughout the area for a variety of different reasons. I've already talked about improved ADA access, but this ADA ramp gets improved to make it a little bit more accommodating for folks to get down to the lower plaza. The lagoon is redesigned, as we've talked about. Let me go to this second slide here. One of the other features in the middle is what we are referring to is an interactive water feature, which others, I think moms would probably refer to it as a splash pad, right? But it also gives us a reason to come with smaller children and actually spend time at Creekside, as opposed to, walking around the fountain. Maybe, Mr. Guthrie's not in the room, so I can say, throw a quarter or 2 in the fountain itself. And then ultimately exit the area. Maybe meet your dinner reservation, but not really spend much time here at Creekside. And one of the things that's intentional in this particular space is how do we activate the space so people are spending 2, 3, 4 hours in the space, as opposed to 45 minutes to an hour and maybe walking the creek bank. Obviously, I've already talked about the landscaping and softscapes that are designed intentionally throughout the space. But then also throughout lighting and other interactive features, right, through colored lighting and LEDs and those things. How do we make it a warm and inviting place that folks want to come and visit, and ultimately not just come once to visit, but also return time and time and time again, because that's ultimately the key. At the same time, I'll also note too, right, and this is one of the more mechanical things, but also all of the plaza utilities end up getting upgraded, whether it's, for irrigation for the vegetation and flower beds and those types of things, electrical services, natural gas services that feed one of the fireplaces that's over more near the barrel and bore side. But how do we upgrade those services to unify those throughout the plaza itself? The upper plaza is everything that's what I'm going to refer to as street level or better, right? Obviously, there's a couple of steps that you need to take in order to get to the upper plaza itself. But one of the reasons, or one of the issues with the garages is that there's a lot of infiltration from that upper plaza area as it rains and as that area gets saturated. There's a lot of water that ends up in the garage because water goes down, generally speaking. Drainage is past its useful life, we'll say it that way. And in order to dry flood-proof the garage, the ceiling of the garage, if you would, every red paver, every red brick out there needs to be removed. The surface needs to be reconstructed, waterproofed, and then those pavers would need to be put back in place, right? So when we talk about opportunities and when we talk about the opportunities that this particular project creates, is if we're really truly going to dry flood proofing is not a requirement from FEMA, but in order to extend the life of the garage and the structure and so on and so forth, it's advantageous for us to do that. Why would we end up putting back all of the red bricks that are there now? Why wouldn't we upgrade those at the same time in which we were dry flood proofing the upper plaza? If we need to remove something and rebuild it, one of the things is that, yeah, we could replace all the red brick, or not replace, but put back all of the red bricks. But one of the things that we had discussed at length is that this should be a total improvement and not just a singular aspect of the project itself. And again, the landscaping and softscapes, I think you see that throughout the overall renderings themselves. I'm going to go back to this. You've seen this particular rendering as well, but this is also the upper plaza here. You know, there's a nice cantilever swing type set that overlooks the area. You still have a variety of opportunities for outdoor seating and patio spaces for the restaurants and such. And all of that exists in this particular area. We don't necessarily have a great rendering of what happens in between buildings B and C. But we've talked about activating that area where it's more like a street market where, you know, you have some shade structures over the top. Maybe you have a fire feature like in the middle of that particular area, but then there's also planting beds through that area that double as seating and such. I believe Pod's working on a couple of different renderings for that particular area as well, so that as you know, we get feedback and such, we can refine those areas we can refine those designs and refine those areas. Just as important to the whole overall plaza design itself is the street itself, right? The street is the front door. In my opinion, this is, and I don't think, in my opinion, I think this is shared by many opinions. This is the front door to the city of Gahanna, right? This defines, this is the key quintessential part that when people say Gahanna, oh, I know that downtown. I went to something in the visitor center. I went to something at that plaza. You know, I went to a cool event. They got a really neat plaza area and Creek Bank, right? But the front door is the streetscape itself, right? Well, obviously, we have a lot of red brick, so a lot of things need to be coordinated, and synergies between the plaza design and the street need to be discussed. But one of the things that you see immediately is not just all of the vegetation that gets created out front. I like how Pod put in lavender. These are lavender plants. Throughout these beds here, but it also creates two opportunities to get to the up to 3 steps and up to the upper plaza by two accessible ramps up to that particular space, and then also a smaller profile for the steps that ultimately get you up to the upper plaza. One of the things that I will note is that. Sorry, I wanted to see what my second slide there was. This is the area in orange that we referred to on the site plan as the tabletop. And what the tabletop gives us the ability to do, I'm not exactly sure how it works, but it's all geometry at this particular point. It gives us the ability to reduce this stair profile from 3 steps to 2 steps. Which is obviously a little bit easier for folks to traverse. It's just as secure, so we have bollards throughout the front of the streetscape. We've maintained this valet area, and then we've also created some other opportunities, you know, to access the the sidewalk, if you would, to the upper plaza area. You'll also notice some other areas like where I'm highlighting now, where you can actually create some bistro-type seating and some additional seating on the street itself. This is, I believe Cold Stone is basically right in here. You can see some of the shade structures that are designed up top here. You can see some of the planting features that also function as seating. And this is one of the areas that we're focusing on very heavily because this doesn't just impact I guess what is the west side of the street, but it also impacts the east side of the street as well. And how does that get redeveloped at the same time? I will note, just for the purposes of this particular conversation and the numbers that you do see on the screen, this takes into consideration the streetscape improvements on the west side, but not necessarily on the east side of the street. But one of the things that it would do would develop a design standard that basically says, okay, on the east side of the street, this is how things should be put back in and ultimately replaced. So with that, we do see numbers on the screen. These are, I guess, what I would say. Let's talk about the numbers for a quick second. One of the things we've been working on pretty heavily, the staff and everybody who works on capital projects, we've really been working hard on refining the way in which we do estimates. One of the things, I've sat in a lot of meetings with the Fishbeck folks, and they're probably getting a little bit tired of me. They say this is an quote unquote all-in number, and I say, well, what do you mean by all-in number, a total number? Like, what does it include? And I've asked that question 6 or 7 times of them, and I'm pretty confident in saying that at this particular point in time, and appropriately, right, that's key to say, that our contingencies are where they need to be at this particular point in time. We have an 8% escalation, right, because we don't exactly know when we're going to get into construction, and the construction industry right now is a little bit variable. Generally speaking, CM services are charged at about 12%. Right now, we're estimating about 18% inside of this particular project. So I do think that our estimates on each phase of this particular project are very good. Obviously, there is, if we were to pull this project apart, one of the things that we've talked about at great length is, okay, well, can we do this today and these other things tomorrow? One of the challenges that we ultimately have is the overall site logistics on this particular project itself. If you do one thing, it naturally leads into a second thing, which almost naturally leads into a third thing, which has been challenging for us in many instances to wrap our minds around. But that's one of the things that we've spent actually a considerable amount of time on considering. We will continue to maintain our cost estimates and such broken out in the fashion like you're seeing on the screen. We will continue as we walk through this particular process, continue to break those things out on the screen as we see them today. And with that, I'll look around to the mayor and anybody else behind me. But with that, we can take some questions and go back to some of the other renderings and such, and yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Director. Appreciate the thorough presentation. Any discussion from my colleagues? Mrs. McGregor.
On the front of the building along Mill Street, the steps are like a flood protection. Is that, the 2 steps is okay, is sufficient to provide that as opposed to the 3 that are there now?
Yes, the elevation itself doesn't change.
Okay.
So the top step is still at the same height as it is today.
Okay.
I saw Ms. Bowers and then Ms. Padova.
Okay, great. Thank you, Director Schultz and Mayor Jadwin and everyone involved in bringing this forward. I think it's a lot to ask people to start to re-envision, what Gahanna should feel like and what Creekside should feel like, but it's been, it'll be nearly 20 years, I think, since this plaza opened, and so this really gives us an opportunity to, I think, gain some of the things that were missed 20 years ago, and maybe re-envision what the community actually wants with the input that we've been getting. with that said, a couple of questions. Do you think it would be possible for us to get an economic impact analysis on this? Because I think that there's going to be significant economic impact as a result of this. I know that we're sort of in a beginning phase. I would not imagine that we have that yet.
Montrose is actually working on that as we speak.
Okay, excellent. And then time, like process and timeline in terms of how long would this project take the plaza offline for residents today? How do we make sure that we're coordinating that with planned weddings and other important events at the down there? And then also, what would there be I think part of the economic impact analysis would also be what are we potentially looking at in terms of impact to business during the construction phase?
Yeah, correct. And that's something that that we talk about probably, you know, at every meeting that we have, we talk about what's the impact to the local business. It is you know, even if there weren't storefronts directly on the plaza, it would be a very challenging site in order to go and construct and not cause any impact. I do think that when we talk about the lower bowl area and even when we talk about the creek bank, those are probably two of the more easy areas to go in and construct and do your renovations and those things and are least impactful. Obviously, the creek bank would be impacted from a recreation standpoint. You won't be able to utilize that particular area. And it's really when you come up to the upper plaza there, and even maybe the trail improvements to the backside of the property, where, yeah, the logistics would have to be taken into consideration so that, you know, the inconvenience to the business is not a full-time inconvenience, and that there are pathways and ways for somebody who's deep inside of the property in order for that area to be accessible. I do think it's a puzzle. I think that's what makes projects like this a little bit interesting or more interesting. I do think it's a puzzle that can be figured out. Again, there will be impacts. But we will be very mindful as we walk through this to understand what those exact impacts are and how we mitigate those as best we can. But you are correct that there will be an impact to the plaza area, our ability to host events and those types of things. Yeah, and that's something that is something that we are discussing. I guess just of note, we do currently have out on the street, some construction manager type services for them to come in, confirm budgets, give us, right, they're the folks who build these types of things and can give us logistical plans and those types of things on how we could potentially execute a project like this. So, yeah, we're also keeping that or being mindful of that as well.
Thank you.
So Ms. Padova and then back to Ms. McGregor.
Thank you so much for this. I remember seeing this at Mill Street Market, and I may have been one of those people that said, "Can we get this today?"
I remember.
I'm down at Creekside frequently, and I love, you know, even how it is now. It's a lovely place to walk around and spend time. But this just enhances. It keeps all of the things that we love about Creekside, and enhances all of the things that we maybe don't love so much. One of those things being the red brick that you mentioned. And I just want some clarity because I know we are not responsible for the buildings, but then the patios such as the Cantina and Barrel and Boar, are those patios part of the plaza? Are they part of the buildings? I'm just not sure exactly where those lines are and how this would affect those.
Yeah, so by agreement, the building has, maybe by easement, area in front where their patios are to be. So they're actually our responsibility, and they lease those through agreement with, or inside of the Creekside agreement that the property owner has with the city. So those would be ours to reconstruct. I will note, and it's important to note, right? So there's a variety of different. So there is a. So when you guys look at those numbers there that aren't on the screen currently, but when you guys look at those numbers, there is a portion of those numbers that should be bore by the property owner. Right, because there's utilities that are in the garage, as an example, that need moved out of the flood zone, and those are utilities that service the building, so have nothing to do with the plaza themselves and so on. And my cost estimates, the cost estimates with the project do have that taken into consideration. There are other areas on the streetscape, as you guys all know, that the property owner is responsible for the sidewalk. By agreement, we're responsible for some sidewalk out there, and the property owner is responsible for other sidewalk out there. So we're also trying to get a cost estimate as to, what's the fair and equitable position for those types of improvements. But the patio spaces inside of the plaza itself are leased. And I think through this process, we even have the ability to enhance that particular agreement and exactly where folks should be and where they shouldn't.
Okay, thank you. And then, so this picture made me question this, but then the other picture that you showed, I think maybe cleared it up, but I just want to ask to be certain. Sorry, go back to the other one that you just had. So the front door, yeah. So I know a lot of the restaurants receive deliveries that pull up there to unload. Will that space still be big enough for the large delivery trucks that pull up frequently? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so basically what you're looking at, you see where the white car is there? Mm-hmm. This lady probably shouldn't be walking here. She's been on the other side of the bollard. This is.
Show what not to do.
Right? I didn't notice that woman until right now. But this is the valet area. There's no curb actually between this vehicle and the bollards.
Okay.
So the bollards create the curb, and then actually the curb is along this particular line here. Now,
Okay.
there is a variation of the design where the curb is here, and there's no quote-unquote tabletop, which you saw in the first picture.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this space here would be almost the same exact size that it is currently.
Okay.
Yep.
And then what would, I might be jumping ahead here, I'm not sure if you had more to say, but I assume this is part of the CIP, which would be part of the budget. How long does it even take to do something like this? I'm sure it depends on the phases of how we do it to help businesses and all of that, but is there some sort of approximate timeline of how long this renovation could take?
I think I've asked that question, others behind me have asked that question, the mayor has asked that question. I think everybody gets a slightly different answer. We can do it with mass inconvenience and all that stuff in 12 months, and we can't have mass inconvenience, right? So then we get to 18 months, then we get to 24 months. I think one of the things that I've learned as I've been in this particular position, doing an 825 project like this, your designers are really good at design. Your designers are really good at design, and they're not necessarily really good at the mechanics of what construction takes. That's one of the reasons why we're talking about the construction manager, at least for pre-construction services, to do things like verify budgets and then figure out what some of those logistical plans are. I mean, I think it's no less than an 18-month project. And I wouldn't doubt it to see that this stretch into a 24-month or 30-month type construction. Now, I do think that's, because of the diversity in areas in which we're going to be operating, I do think that there's the ability to mitigate some of those impacts. But until we get a little bit deeper into it, it's a little bit of a moving target at this point.
And if I could, Director Schultz is right. I mean, we've all asked that question. And to your question, your comment earlier, Councilwoman Bowers, having what the impact is to the businesses in that area. First of all, this project, whatever we do, is going to be an improvement, whether it's all of this or a portion of this. And it's ultimately for the benefit of the businesses, but it will be difficult as we go through that. So understanding what those impacts are, how we minimize those impacts to the businesses, how we work to support them throughout the construction process has been ongoing conversations that we've had and questions that we have raised. I think, first of all, we need to understand what exactly is it that we're doing. Director Schultz shared, the gray and the blue. We know we need to do the gray. We're recommending we do the blue. If we get whatever else we do is going to be conversations that happen here. Once we know that, then we can work further with I would say the design team, but probably the construction management as well, as in terms of understanding, okay, what can you do when, how long is it reasonably expected to take? We've just had high-level conversations of, is it better to do it all at once? and get it done in a shorter period of time or extend it and a little bit here and a little bit there. So those will be conversations that, once again, we know what exactly the project is, then we'll be able to get into a little bit deeper. And then I would expect there would also be conversations with the businesses and engagement and hearing from them too as we go through this. So I think it's still TBD, but those issues are all very, very much in the forefront of our minds as we consider what would happen down here.
Is there a planned presentation to the chamber or?
So we are currently working on scheduling community engagement. Obviously, we have the ice cream social. You heard Director Vollmer speak earlier about that. So tying it, letting that piece happen first, and then following up. So right now we're working with venue options in terms of where to have community engagement, and then also working on focus groups, conversations, which would include the Creekside businesses and some of our stakeholder partners, such as the Chamber, Visit Gahanna, et cetera.
Yeah, and we'll be at a variety of events, like we are normally.
Right.
But we'll have a presence here to touch a truck as an example. I believe we'll be there with the posters and such, and gaining that valuable feedback as we go, not just through those engagements, but then also through, to Mrs. Padova's point, the budget process.
And one other question, so you mentioned, to do the flood proofing, all of the brick needs to be removed. And I'm just curious if the flood proofing estimate that we have up there, is that just doing the flood proofing and then not putting anything back?
No, sorry.
Or-
Let me clarify
Okay.
for us. And I probably only figured this out last week. The flood proofing itself is the creek bank, and then any improvements that need to be made in order to keep water coming through the wall, if you would, of the garage and into the garage. Okay? The dry flood proofing that I referred to and the removal of the bricks, that's in the upper plaza number.
Okay.
And that's not necessarily a FEMA requirement, but in order to dry up the garage, that needs done and should be done. And if we're gonna remove the bricks, lay down a barrier and then put the bricks back, we would be putting back new bricks. And that's what's in the, what's shown on red on this particular slide, but it's technically green. The cost is correct. I have to double check that, but I believe the cost is correct. They're basically almost the same thing.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Padova. I know Mrs. McGregor has been waiting patiently down.
No, that's fine. The one thing I really like about this is the water wall's gone. When originally it was planned, it was to provide a visual from Mill Street to the creek area. And when they put that water wall up, it just cuts off the view of the plaza and the trees and everything that's beyond it. And that was, I don't know how that got in there. That was never a good plan to me. So I like seeing that gone. And it reminds me a lot of, if you've ever been to San Antonio, La Vieta is a little village, and they have an amphitheater with the stage at the bottom, and that amphitheater seating looks very much like it. One question, this is going to be a many-year project, but in the meantime, some of the structures there have issues with their flood protection along Mill Street. Is that going to be corrected now? Like in front of the old Bag of Nails, that planter in front of them is cracked.
No, this project stops at the alley and stops at the
Okay.
end of Building A.
Okay,
Yes.
so, but that should be, I guess that should be repaired.
And that's where some of the issue and challenge comes in, because that's technically a private property. That's a private property issue and matter those folks should be taking care of their.
Right.
that
In their own best
planter.
interest, they should be taking care of
Correct.
that.
Yes.
Okay, all right, that's right, I forget that's south of there, okay.
Yeah. So I did pull up the picture of, from a perspective standpoint, standing at Mill Street and having the ability to look through the entire plaza.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. The first time that I came to Creekside, I believe I was working for the county at the time, and I came to Creekside to go to the event space upstairs. This is the first time I'm there, and, I'm like, where is this place I'm going? And I see this, I don't really know where I am. I'm coming up out of the garage and I'm on Mill Street. And then I said, like you almost don't even know it's there as a new visitor or a visitor period. And what this really does is it really opens your eye all the way up to the bridge and then to the creek beyond.
It just opens the vista
It
up to
just,
the whole creek.
yeah,
You know,
absolutely. And
really-
it's yeah,
Which is what it was intended to do.
which was intended, yeah, correct. And I think it's just a better functionality of the space, because right now, if there's something going on in that lower area or even on the backside of Creekside, as a visitor to the space, you don't even know that it's taking place.
Thank you, Mrs. McGregor. Any other questions or discussion? I guess I would ask then, what can we expect next from
Yeah.
you, sir?
Sure. One of the things I keep reminding myself is we're going to create a similar webpage that we have to A25, where basically all the materials that have, ever been presented here at this particular forum or other forums will live and breathe there. Every presentation that I've given about A25, just a public service announcement. If you want to go and view those things, they're there. Presentations, the live stream, so on and so forth. And we'll do the same thing here at Creekside. Or for Creekside. As the mayor indicated, we're still looking for particular dates and venues to host. We want to host more down in the environment than, no offense to the formality of the chambers, but the formality of the chambers. So that's really going to be next. And then there'll be a complete public engagement type schedule that's developed that will be at, like I talked about Touch a Truck, and then there's 100 other places that I think we want to be. We follow some of that with the strategic plan, different public engagement events, and then, I know we'll be back at Mill Street Market, where we unveiled this, I think, last year. So, there'll be a variety of places that these particular boards and information will be at.
Thank you, sir. Last call for any questions or comments right now. All right. Thank you very much, Director, Mayor, and your team. I appreciate everyone's efforts on this and for the very thorough and comprehensive presentation. All right. I think we're there. I think we are down to our final item. We've got items from council members. President Bowers.
Yeah, thank you. We have not had a marathon meeting like this in a while, so I'll keep this very brief. As we have done in years past, we have a resolution proclamation designating August 2025 as Share the Road and Distracted Driving Awareness Month. As I think everybody here is very familiar, Gahanna is a very proud active transportation community with a vibrant cyclist community. We have here tonight joining us Patricia Kovacs, who I think is a very welcome and friendly face involved with our bicycle transportation advisory committee and involved with other types of cyclist advocacy and safety throughout the community. Ms. Kovacs and I worked together on pulling up some numbers to put together this resolution this year, and thank you to Mayor Jadwin as well for verifying and correcting a couple of the numbers that you see in front of you in the resolution. So we have identified some of the statistics of cyclists and pedestrians impacted by vehicle crashes throughout Gahanna, but also throughout the state and county. And also, this year, I also wanted to bring to our attention a situation of a young woman, not even 40 yet, a triathlete who was cycling in Northwest Ohio, who was killed earlier this year when a young distracted driver crossed the center lane. She had a vibrant triathlon team, and we expect to be joined by one of her mentees, Nicole Reese, next week, who will speak to Roseanne's zest and love of life and what the family hopes to do to drive awareness to the importance of sharing the road and safety for all users of our roadways. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Ms. Kovacs wanted us to draw attention to one of the leading causes of crashes, not just in Ohio, but in Gahanna as well. A lot of crashes occur when pedestrians or cyclists are intersecting perpendicularly with a vehicle, and the car perhaps is turning right, well, just by way of example, if a vehicle is turning right, they might glance to the right, but they're primarily focused on the traffic to the left, and so they don't see a cyclist or pedestrian either already in the intersection or entering the intersection. So Ms. Kovacs wanted us to bring that to our attention and make sure that we were highlighting that potential risk. So we look forward to having some guests with us next week, cyclists and triathletes from around the Gahanna area, as well as loved ones of the late Roseanne Pfeiffer.
I would just like to ask, I don't know, maybe the chief could address this, not tonight, but at another point, but there are so many changes in bicycles. We have e-bikes, different classes. We have small mopeds. We have electric scooters. Could you do a presentation on what is roadworthy and what is not? Because I have seen grandchildren and their friends, and you don't have to do it tonight. I'm just saying, can we have some kind of a thing to pass out or put on our website? Because parents just don't know, and kids are doing things. I was up on North Hamilton Road by the Panda, and there was a kid in the lane adjacent to me. I was turning in. He was adjacent to me on an electric scooter with a helmet on his bicycle in the middle of the lane with a phone holder looking at it in the lane. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, I think we've seen a kind of a flood of them this year in particular. In fact, we took a deep dive into code within the last couple of months. We talking to the city attorney, then we took a pivot because it gets very complicated. But one of the things that we're now seeing are electric motorcycles. They are in fact a motorcycle by definition under code, and those seem to be that you have to be a licensed driver to operate those. But those are being ridden by, people as young as 11, 12, 13. I actually just this morning looked at another agency that did a kind of a checklist with the different types of bikes. So we're definitely looking at that because we've kind of seen a flood of complaints this past year. So getting toward the end of that season, but certainly gearing up, trying to get a handle on all these different types of devices and what they actually are and what the licensing requirements is for each of those. So it's in the works, and matter of
Okay,
fact, we just
thank
looked
you.
at it today.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. McGregor. Thank you, Chief. Any other questions or comments on this item? Okay. Seeing none, a resolution you said on for next week? All right. Thank you very much. Anything else for the committee? All right, seeing none, we will adjourn for the evening. Thanks, everybody, for sticking with us.